Hi, Philip. I see you there. I'll just invite you again. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Let's just see if I can tilt the phone so you can see a bit more of me. There we are. That's probably about the best I can do.
Meh. All right. It's different every time. I don't know what the setup problem is here today, but my head is cut off. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, Philip. Welcome to Road, the Instagram live chat. So where in the world are you coming from? Somewhere in the UK?
Yeah, I'm in Sussex, about 20 miles north of Brighton.
Okay. Well, that's a nice part of the world.
Yeah, it is.
I have a little affliction where I watch Escape to the Country episodes to unwind.
Oh, wow.
I think I kind of can pinpoint it more or less where I know. And there's Erica on the sidelines saying, "Welcome, Philip." I'm not sure if you're also seeing the chat there. Anyway, thank you so much. I think maybe I just need to prop something up here where Erica will have my head. Right, well,
While you're doing that, I'll see if I can prop my phone up, stand up a bit. I think I have to hold it so you can see more than just half my head. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's okay.
I think we're good now. Okay. So it's just a delight to meet you. And I just wanted to start by finding out a little bit about you and your background.
Sure.
From Sussex originally, or where are you from? And
no, I've always lived within about 2 miles of where I'm currently am. So yeah.
All right. That's very local that you've managed to remain. So what about your training musically and otherwise?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you about that. I mean, I had piano lessons locally with various teachers, all of whom sadly are now dead. And I studied maths and music at Royal Holloway College, which is part of London University. I actually majored in maths, but took more interest really in the music.
Right.
And yep, sorry.
Math and music are connected. Yeah.
Well, I think, because most of the people who were good at maths at that college were also interested in music as far as I could see. So, yeah.
I'm just
sorry.
up to say, I still am not used to how in the UK you have more than one math, like you call it math, plural, and we in North America just call it math, one math.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know, it's strange, isn't it?
What math is plenty for me. No, I actually also enjoyed math. But anyway, sorry to interrupt with that silly observation.
Okay. So anyway, I got my degree in math and music, but then I was encouraged to do something that would actually pay me reasonably well by my parents. So I took up accountancy. And I actually worked for KPMG for 11 years and qualified as an accountant. And then for 20 years, 10 years or so after that, I went and worked for various companies and finally with a bank, and then a bit of freelance work for about 6 years after that. But my career was always compromised because I always wanted to keep up the piano playing. And in the early days of my accountancy training, I used to play for operatic societies in my area. So I was doing Gilbert and Sullivan, musicals, and what have you, but not that much solo playing, other than when I went on summer schools, which I used to do occasionally.
So you kept it going, even though you were heavily into the accounting.
That's right. Yes, it really did compromise my career because I always told my employers that I wasn't really keen to go on extended overseas trips or anything, because I would just get out of practice and then have to give up all the things that I'd taken on, even though they weren't paying me anything.
Priorities.
Yes. But towards the end of all that, back in the late 80s, I took up playing for an opera group down in Brighton, which did put on serious opera productions, with quite well-known singers. And that was a fantastic experience. I had to take days off work in order to be able to go and do the daytime rehearsals with the professional principals. But that was all such good practice for me, and forced me to keep the piano playing up in order to be able to do it at all.
Inspiring too, I guess.
And then another thing that I did was very important was from about 1988 for 10 years, I went to an advanced piano class at Morley College in London, which was I think it was a Tuesday evening. And it was taken by Martino Torimo, who's quite a well-known concert pianist here. He was excellent. It was like a weekly masterclass, and there were about 20 odd people. So you might get to play once or twice a term, but you were with people working on major works. And indeed, I can remember once Martino was going to play live on BBC TV the Tippett piano concerto. And he ran through he actually ran it through it at the class, and I had to turn the pages for him, which I didn't do very well because he knew it off by heart and really wanted it turned a page. But I mean, anybody who can play a piece like that on live television has certainly got something to teach.
Yeah, incredible.
But also when he was away, going back to the women connection, the class was taken by Gwyneth Pryor, who is an Australian concert pianist who was the accompanist for many years for Gervais de Pire, the clarinetist.
Yeah.
He was very famous. And she was excellent too. She could play anything I could.
Yeah.
But that was really useful to see people working on core repertoire to that level.
Yeah. And also something to work towards without being too stressful, I guess.
That's right. I mean, for example, at the end of one term's project was the Liszt studies. And they did a concert at the end of it at which all of them were played, all by different people. Yeah. And I did, from the Transcendental Studies, the first one, which is very short. And then I did Fur Follet because nobody else wanted to play it. Which I've never played since, I tell you.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you for not going back to that. Oh, that's so amazing. So you did that, did you say for about 10 years? Yeah,
I went to that class for about 10 years. And then after that, I was made redundant from the job I had at the bank when it was taken over. And so I did a bit of freelance work, mainly for other people who I'd worked for in my employments. But I also took on much more piano playing and took on playing for exams, which I'd never done, and festivals and things. I mean, I'd never done exams because they were in the daytime and I was at the bank and accountancy firm. But then as I say, from then on, I did take up playing for exams. And since then, I've continued doing that. I play for people in competitions and festivals and all sorts of things. And I also used to play for music for civil wedding ceremonies here at a country house hotel nearby. But unfortunately, that closed down a few years ago, and there's nowhere anywhere near me that does that and has a piano. So I haven't done so much of that lately.
To bring an electric keyboard to many of those weddings.
I mean, that's what other people do, but I don't drive, so I can't carry one around.
Strap it on your back, bicycle.
Yes, yeah. Go on the bus, yes.
And so the being made redundant could have been a little bit of a blessing in disguise.
Well, it didn't worry me enormously because I knew that I was getting on in years when I was there, and really, once you get beyond about 40, unless you're the boss, you begin to look a bit old in an office full of 20 and 30-year-olds. So I didn't feel totally at home with people much younger than me. So I was quite happy to go as a freelance and and do more on the music.
So then, I mean, we know you because of your YouTube project, which is such an impressive and comprehensive resource. How did you decide? You've had it going for years, I think.
Yeah, I started it in 2007, actually, when YouTube was only about 2 years old, if that, about a year and a half old. I think I just wanted, at that time, I just wanted to have something online that acted as a 24/7 audition.
Aha.
Yeah, a show reel, if you like. I just wanted to have a couple of examples of my playing. So if anybody wanted to use me, I could say, look, here I am playing something.
A bit carried away then. It's become a bit more than that.
Yeah, well, I got into the habit of playing for it. I got better equipment over the years as well, because when I first started doing it, I was just using an ordinary, what was it? It was not Casio. It was a Sony still camera with a video function.
Yeah,
but
right.
I graduated after 2 other cameras. I've got an Olympus camera, which is designed. At the time I bought it, it was the thing that was recommended to people who wanted to video and record concerts, because it had 2 microphones in it. I mean, it's not the greatest video quality, but it's good enough for this. So that has been more encouraging, to know that you're producing something that doesn't look awful.
Yeah, no, it looks professional. So you started already, like you'll be having your 15-year anniversary then.
I will indeed, yes. I don't think I'll be celebrating in any particular way. But,
maybe that should happen. At what point then did it become like clear that it was going to be more than a business card kind of portfolio?
I can't really remember. Probably in 2011, I reached 2 million views, which I mean doesn't sound great these days, because there are plenty of people who can get that with a single video of them doing a walk in London or something like that.
Okay.
But at the time when YouTube was fairly new, there was a bit of interest in that, and I sent I think I sent something like a press release to a local paper, and it got picked up by the BBC and a few other radio stations. I had somebody come over to interview me on TV, and I played live on a local drive time radio show. But of course, things have progressed since then. All the videos I've done and that have ever gone on YouTube are still there, unless they've been censored. So you just go on, you carry on producing videos, but you're competing against everything that's ever been there, plus people putting up videos who weren't born when I started doing it. So I think I've had about 14 million views now, but I don't get as many as I did 5 or 6 years ago. But I put that down to just the huge choice that people have. I mean, you can't expect to unless you get some sort of hype from elsewhere. Right. Well, that's there's a lot of very good classical music channels out there that are putting very high quality studio recordings, and particularly at North American conservatories. I mean, the most excellent equipment and performing, but they don't get many views at all because there's just so much there. Maybe they don't put good enough details on the video descriptions and things. So it's
right. So yeah, there are some simply use our iPhones to make our videos.
Yeah.
And whatever piano we can come across, in my case. Right.
Well, the smartphones weren't around when I started the channel. It was either camera or nothing.
So how do you decide, like, was it from the beginning that it was about recording lesser known pieces, or did that?
Yeah, I suppose it was in the first recordings I did were a piece by Heller. Because, in fact, which people still watch because a lot of kids learn the studies. But right. I suppose I've always I've always played lesser known music, so it wasn't a problem for me. But as time has gone on, I realized that, yeah, I might be able to play a Chopin prelude or a Brahms intermezzo really well, but on YouTube, there'll be somebody else who's also done it well and with the benefit of a Steinway in a concert hall. So I know I can't compete on the technical and recording level with that sort of thing. So I come around to thinking that I might as well record music that people wouldn't have a chance to hear from elsewhere, and then they can go and learn. I mean, people often ask me for the scores if they're not on IMSLP, and it's subject to copyright. I'll send them.
And I thank you for that, because I did contact you in, I think it was 2019. I was desperate to find a score of Marionbauer.
Oh yes, yeah.
And yes, you were so generous. Just sent it off to me. So
yeah, but yeah, well, that's I mean, there is so much. I mean, I think it's Marc-André Hamelin made some famous quote about there's more piano music out there than you could possibly imagine, and he's quite right, because the number of publishers that were active in the mid-19th century in London and Paris was absolutely incredible. And I think the technology, the technological aspect of producing all this music must have been fascinating when you consider how many people must have been involved in engraving, printing, correcting.
Indeed.
A staggering industry, really.
Well, as we discover these pieces by these women, it's astounding to me how, we don't even know much about a particular composer, and yet almost every piece that she has written that we have access to is published by a different publisher.
Yeah, that's right. There are a lot of composers in the late 19th century where there's just so little biographical information. I mean, you look on Google, and I often look on Google Books as well as the main search engine.
Yeah.
But if there's nothing there, I've got here in Sussex, England, I've got no particular means of finding out more. I can go to the British Library, which is not difficult for me to get to at all, but you have to order books, so you can't go and browse around and hope to find something by luck.
Right. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice just to leaf through all the stacks? Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Well, I do that actually, because if I, it's a bit digressing, but if I order a piece of music from the British Library, if it's published before about 1950, it will come in a big bound volume with a load of other stuff. And so there's a lot of, when I order music, I will, because I do go there now and have been doing for about 6 months, I will choose a piece of music I particularly want to see, but I'll spend as much time looking at the other things that are in the book, and there might be about 30 pieces in any given book. And then I find other things, including women composers, that I would never have heard of. I mean, for example, I went quite recently to get something particular, and there were several pieces by the Australian Kitty Parker.
Yes.
You've come across her. And they're fantastic, and so I put a couple of those on YouTube.
Yeah,
I think a couple anyway.
I've programmed her into my En Pleine Lumière Volume 3 Volume 2 record. Yeah, so the next album that I'm recording, I forgot. They've been published. The volume published in Australia now of Kitty Parker's music.
Oh, is there? Right. Yes, well, because I'm looking at old ones published in what she published in Britain in the 1920s, because those are what's in the books that I happen to see.
Fantastic! Wow, beautiful composer. Yeah, love her.
Excellent.
So, how do you decide what to record?
Well, there's a lot of. I mean, it's normally there's a lot of serendipity involved. It will be whatever has. Sometimes it's what people have asked me to play. Sometimes people send me things, and I feel obliged to play them, or sometimes I want to play them. but I also look every day to see what's new on IMSLP, and I'll look through, because from there it may be music by composers I've never heard of, and I won't look them up. But if I look through the list of new scores, I can then have a little glance at them and see if they're suitable.
So you check that every day?
Pretty well every day, yes. Or I mean, I check all of the new editions. I might not do it every day, but I'll look at 2 days at once, maybe, if I haven't got time.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. We're
the other sources, though, which I ought to mention, apart from IMSLP, it's always worth looking at what's gone on to Gallica, the French, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France website, because they add a lot of scores. Unlike the British Library, they've got a big scanning program, and in fact, there's quite a bit of music by women composers that you would be able to find on there that hasn't made it onto IMSLP yet, because somebody's got to go through it and put it into a suitable format for IMSLP. But it's very easy to download from Gallica.
Okay, that's a great tip. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, in fact, you were going to ask me about what women composers I found interesting. Yeah. And one of them that's, I think, on Gallica, but hardly on IMSLP, is Hedwiga Chrétien.
Oh, yes.
Who is almost an exact contemporary of Cécile Chaminade. And she was a very good composer, but she had a much more, as far as I can tell, she was much more into musical education and performing than Chaminade was, and never really got the limelight. But she is a very interesting composer.
Yes, we have some of her music on our channel, and I've also included some of her pieces in the recently published anthology for elementary level.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, I think she's excellent. So,
where can I find more of her music? So that's fantastic.
Yeah, there's quite a bit on Gallica of her music, so it's definitely worth a look.
Okay. Any other places that you typically find things?
Other places?
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, there's IMSLP, the British Library, and Gallica. Right. Other than that, there is a website called Pianophilia, where people share scores. You have to join it, but you will find scores. I mean, they do have their own rules about what can be posted. They won't post anything that's in print, but they might post things that are in copyright but out of print. So you might be able to find. I haven't seen much, particularly by women composers there, but there certainly will be stuff that's not on IMSLP, which has to have, because it's so out there in the public and has been threatened with legal action in the past, has to have very strict rules on copyright.
Yeah, that makes things a little more challenging sometimes. So when you're programming or deciding what to record next, I have a sense that gender, it's not. No,
not at all.
Whereas our channel, of course, is giving
that's fair enough. Yeah. But
it's
no, I don't have any bias on that at all, really. I just play whatever. But having said that, if I come across something by a woman composer that's particularly interesting, I might make a bit more of an effort if I think that she is neglected. Oh yes, on the subject of sources, there is one other place that I spent a lot of time looking through a couple of years ago during the pandemic when I was stuck at home, and that is the music published in the Etude magazine.
Ah, yes.
Which a lot of that is now gradually being put on IMSLP, but there is quite a bit. It's publicly available. I don't know. There must have some educational dispensation on the Internet Archive. I think all the magazines are there, and there is certainly somebody on Pianophilia who has been making a big effort over the years to take, because every month they published several piano pieces, maybe one or two songs and an organ piece, but there were quite a lot of pieces by women composers there. I mean, one's particularly, for example, Lily Strickland. Have you come across Lily Strickland? Yes. Well, she, certainly several pieces by her were on there, and others that I could mention.
I think I've come across some Etude magazines through Google Books as well.
Yeah, you might have done. But the Internet Archive is the place to actually find all of them. I mean, it does take, if you want to look through them, I mean, the articles are interesting. I mean, I could quite happily sit and read the articles because they're all fascinating. But it ran from about 1890s, I think, right through to 1954 or so. So there's an awful, that was every month in that. So there's an awful lot of material to get through. But there really is an interesting collection. I mean, the people who wrote for it, and it's fascinating.
I think it's also a very visually appealing magazine.
Yeah.
Of an era, but also just the graphics are very interesting. I just want to interrupt to answer Erica's question there about Gallica. Gallica is the website for the Bibliothèque Nationale de
France. Yes, that's right. It is the digital arm of the BNF.
I think you can Google Gallica and
yeah, you find it very easily.
Yeah.
And it's got a very easy. They do compress the scores well. They're all scanned in color, but downloading is very easy. And the only thing is, some of them are a bit fuzzy. They didn't always scan them brilliantly, but then some of the scores are very old and discolored, and so there are a few that you might download and hardly be able to read. But that's all there is.
That's it.
You have to take them apart and read. What's the word? Not reformat. I can't remember what the word is. To type them in again.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an amazing tip. I so appreciate that. Of course, that makes sense. I've seen things there in the past, but I never sort of thought of it as a place I should just keep returning to. So.
Yeah. Well, again, what you can do, if you can do a search every few weeks on what they've added, it's quite easy to put a filter on anything that's been published between two dates.
Right.
So you just look at what's gone in the last month. You'll probably find there's about 18 or 19 pages a month of scores. Now, a lot of those are songs, because there's a gigantic amount of humorous songs published in France that they're putting on. I don't know whether anybody would ever want to sing or play them, but some of the music, the covers are quite interesting. But there is certainly interesting piano music, and sometimes it's miscatalogued. So you'll see something we can't see the title of, then it won't be what you're expecting at all. It's where the original cards were probably not properly done. And you'll find things that you're not expecting at all.
Right. So what had some top of the list discoveries, especially we'd be interested in women composers.
Right. Now, let me just I did actually go through what I'd played by women composers and made a list. I'll just go and get it. And so, because I need a...
Sure. Amazing. I mean, Philip has recorded, what was it, Erica? You said 5,000?
It must be about that. I never count. Yeah, I mean, I tell you, if you want some interesting women, but another piece I got off Gallica quite recently, which I don't think has made it onto IMSLP, is a set of studies by Virginie Morel.
Okay.
She married a nobleman and lived in a castle. So she was I think she was the Baroness or Countess du Verger. So she can be known as Virginie Morel du Verger. And she was a contemporary, I think, of, she was born around about 1797 or so and lived on into the 1850s or so. I haven't got her exact dates here. But she wrote a really excellent set of studies, of which I recorded a couple of them, and I keep meaning to go back to the others, which I hope I one day will do, because they're really excellent.
That's something not known to me.
Yeah, no, that's I don't think she published more than this set of studies actually.
Huh.
That's probably why.
So.
That's the one I particularly wanted to mention. Another composer that might be of interest, because she did write an awful lot in various genres, was the British composer Evelyn Sharp.
I don't know her either.
No. But she published, as people did, she published some music, piano music, under the name Maurice Winlaw in the presumably to get it published and interest in it. But no, she was a friend of a great aunt of mine. But so I've got a few of her songs, and I have put a couple of pieces by Maurice Winlaw on my YouTube. But she was very, very accomplished composer, and I think quite popular writing as a songwriter back in the 1910s to 1940s or so.
Right.
Yeah. So those are the ones I particularly want to mention. I did come across, I mean, this is a really a strange thing, but I did recently record a set of pieces by a piano teacher who lived in Willesden, North London, called Adeline Prince, called Vigils. And she wrote it in memory of, I think it was an artist who had been a friend of hers. I mean, I've never heard of Adeline Prince, other than I was able to get her dates off looking at a genealogical website. But I mean, this set of pieces is a bit rough around the edges. I mean, she obviously wasn't composing lots, but it's that sort of music is often the most interesting. The people who weren't fully trained and composing for a living often wrote the most interesting music. But it's a really interesting set, actually, called Vigils. It could go, I ought to put it on IMSLP, actually, because it is out of copyright. She died in 1947. May not be actually, yes, it may not be. I can't remember when it was published. It may have been after, if it's after 1926, it would still be in copyright in the States, I guess, but IMSLP would accept it.
Yeah, well, IMSLP, as I am, we're based in Canada with shorter, I think it's 50 years here.
Yeah, that's right. You've got a very good copyright law. But
IMSLP is based here in Canada as well.
Which is why, interestingly enough, people are now putting Stravinsky's music on there.
Wow.
Because he died in 1971, so he's now. I can remember the day he died, actually. I mean, not that I was there, but I remember going to school and saying, "Oh, I'm so upset the world's greatest composer has died." That's how I was at the time.
Remember where they were when JFK was shot, or
That's it.
9/11, but Stravinsky died. Yeah,
that's
right. That's fun. So you must be quite the sight reader to be able to. You record every day, I think I read on. I don't record every day. I try and upload something every day, but I may well record in advance, because there are some days I'm playing for exams or doing other things, or maybe on holiday even, which I can't. So, okay.
but everything I upload is probably recorded within a month of the day it goes onto YouTube.
But to go through that amount of music,
yeah,
also going through other music that doesn't make the cut. So.
Yeah, that's right. Indeed, I play through much more than I actually do. But yes, I mean, after all, I've had a lot of practice at sight reading, but I certainly would never sight read anything on YouTube. I mean, I have to practice whatever I play.
Yeah, but
a lot of what I play is quite generic and has familiar patterns in it. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't take me very long to learn. And I always go through when I'm editing the video, I always go through with the score, make sure there aren't any obvious misreadings or anything. Yeah. And that, if I find that I've misread a note, I might go back, just record that bar again and paste it in, because I don't want to mislead people by putting in something that's wrong and then saying it's by such and such composer. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that there aren't the odd wrong notes and misreadings in all the videos I've done, but I certainly try to do my best to iron them out.
So do you have any tips for people who would like to improve their sight reading? I know, like I and obviously with her sight reading show weekly, We are sight readers as well, but just if you have any guidance.
Not really, because I've never been a teacher, so all I can say is play through as much as you can. And with today's technology, particularly if you've got an iPad or something, you can download loads of stuff, read it through, and you may discard it after that, but it's certainly much cheaper than going to a shop and buying it, or going to a library and having to take the time to find and borrow it.
That makes sense. But what I always tell my students when they want to know how to work on their sight reading, it's just do it. Do it.
That's it. But what I would say is you should spend time playing music that you enjoy and want to hear, because I mean, I was bad as a student when I was about 12 or 13. I should have been learning the pieces for my exams, but instead I was taking time out to play what I could of Grieg piano concerto, and it didn't do me any good at all, because I didn't have the technique to bring it off. And there were a lot of gross, I mean, I wasn't very good. If I listened to a recording of what I played at, and there is an old cassette tape around of me playing at home back in when I was about 11 or 12. It's terrible. There are a lot of things that are conventional in music that I didn't necessarily understand, like how to do a phrase and how to taper off at the end of a phrase. That sort of thing wasn't natural to me at all. I had to learn it the hard way over the years.
Right. Well, that's funny. That's exactly the piece that I spent a lot of time as a kid. Instead of practicing, just play through the damn concerto again.
Well, that's right. Well, but you wanted to hear it, and there's no better way to hear it than to play it. So
that's so funny. Exact same piece. So Erica and I recently did a Instagram live event where we just, the two of us, talked about our process of recording. And so how go about it, like, and what's your setup, and
right
behind the scenes?
If you look, I'll tilt it round, you can see I've got a tripod there.
Right.
And I put my Olympus camera on that.
Okay.
And then I film myself sitting at the piano where I currently am. I mean, that's the view that you normally get from a video.
Right.
Then if I'm playing a piece, because bear in mind, I don't want, if something's only ever going to be recorded once or even played once, I don't want to have a load of errors in. So I'll do about 3 takes, normally, sometimes more. The first one, just to get used to playing it on camera.
Right. The
second or third are the ones that I might use. And that sometimes I might take a bit of one and put it on the other one, but I don't cover it up, because I always put a little transition so you can see where I've done it. Okay. And that's the way I do it, to get the best I can do at the time. I mean, yes, I could spend much more time practicing them, so I do a perfect run each time, but then I wouldn't have time to put on so much. And there's an awful lot of music out there waiting to be played, so that's the way I looked at it. But then for editing, I use a program called Olive. Olive, yeah. It was a video editor that was issued as an alpha version several years ago. There is, and it still exists only in an alpha version. There is a later one, but it doesn't have all the features of the original one. It is very basic in some ways, but it's actually ideal for the sort of recording I do. It's easy to see where your cuts are. It has a very good timeline that you can edit very accurately with.
Yeah.
And it also has logarithmic fade, which I don't think some of the others do have. So if, for example, you want to end your video on your last note, you can do a fade with that will take it out, and any noise you make getting off your seat afterwards.
Right.
But this sounds natural. If you do a linear fade, which is what most of them have, it just doesn't sound right at all.
Yeah, abrupt or whatever.
And so that's why I use that, and it is very simple. So that's what I do. The titles I do in Google. Well, the titles on the video I do with Olive. But the YouTube thumbnails I do with Google Slides now. I've used various things for that, but I use Google Slides now for that.
Okay, I've never tried that. I just end up using all the interlocking pieces Apple system.
Yeah.
Keynote and yeah. So when you record, that was the thing that was different between Erica and me. She tends to put the press record and then just keep playing, and I tend to press record. Oh, screwed up. Okay, delete. Press record again. Oh no.
No, I keep playing actually. Once I've started a recording, I'll do the 4 takes without touching the camera.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's more like what she does. I just, when I get to the editing, I can't sit through all of that. So I just do.
Well, normally it's that I don't like watching through lots of my takes. So what I will usually do, I'll know when I've recorded which one I want to go with, and it's usually the last one.
Yeah.
And so I'll go and listen through that, and if there's anything that doesn't come across properly, I'll then go back to the other ones.
Okay,
and see if I can take a passage out. But the important thing is that I do record them all at one session, so you don't see a video of me at 5 o'clock one day interspersed with a video of me at 10 o'clock the next day.
A different outfit.
The lighting is, yeah, exactly. I mean, I could do that. The only way I would do that would be pasting a video, a sound recording on, so you would never actually see the type. But I only do that for the odd wrong notes.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, cool. And we also appreciate when we watch your videos that you give a good amount of information in the, which is what we try to do. What Erica does, that part of it. But sometimes, like we said, there's who are you born? Where are you even from? France or what? You know, and so.
Yeah, well, I do that for 2 reasons. One, because I want to know about the composers, and the other, because it provides a lot of keywords for people to find the videos.
Oh.
People often find them when they're looking for something totally different. I mean, if I use a picture from my YouTube for my thumbnail, I might say who the artist is, and people might find the video when they're actually looking for the artist.
Okay, that's very clever. Good tip.
Yeah. So, no, this is very important because you could put a load of tags on. I think it does have a space for keywords. You do it that way, but I think it's easier to do it by putting a good video description on and hope that people find them that way.
Right, of course, that makes sense. But when you're really stuck on a composer for which you have zero information, does that ever happen?
Oh, yes, it does sometimes. And I say, I have no more information. If any viewer has, get in touch. And occasionally I find people, composers I don't know much, I get contacted by family members, which is always great.
Yeah.
Grandchildren or great-grandchildren usually, who can sometimes provide more information, and occasionally even extra scores, which is good.
Yeah. Oh, that's a bonus. Yeah, we've had a couple things happen like that. Fantastic. So is there anything else that you wanted to just tell the people that there are only a few people that watch in real time, but then we're going to on our YouTube channel, so watching it a little bit.
I think the only thing I would say at the end is that just lately I've slightly diverted what I play on YouTube to include more by Ukrainian composers, because I think that the poor people out there, including some of my viewers, deserve all the support that they can get.
Yeah, we have in our piano music she wrote kind of family or network. We have a Ukrainian composer who lives in Italy. Have you come across Tatiana Stankovic?
I've heard the name. Yeah, I haven't played anything by her, I don't think.
A lot of lovely pieces for students that she put MSLP.
Mm.
Her birthday is next week on International Women's Day. So,
All right.
but yeah, and looking into her music, it's you know, for younger students maybe, but it's always beautiful. So you're easy to find on YouTube. Your channel is just your name, I think.
Yeah, PC a pianist, all one word. That's how I call it.
Pianist. Okay, and then you also have a website.
Yep, that's linked in every one of my videos.
Okay.
I mean, it just has a bit. It's a bit. I designed it quite a few years ago, and it's made using rather old software. If I were doing it again now, I'd do it on WordPress, but it's just not worth the effort of moving it. I'm not an expert on that sort of thing. But it does, I mean, I keep it up to date with how many views I've had on YouTube and the biography. That's about all it's any good for. But
how many subscribers do you have on YouTube now?
I think it's somewhere about 20,500, I think.
Wow, iconic! That's incredible.
but a lot of them are people who probably subscribed about 15 years ago and never been taken off. So it doesn't mean to say they'll watch my videos every week. I'm sure there's people who watch me who've never subscribed, but I don't really mind. I mean, I think, as I say, with all this obscure music, I think I now see myself as putting it on there for the long term.
Yeah.
Just so that it's there and to help anybody else who might want to play it, get an idea of what it sounds like, or if they can't sight read well, and
yeah,
and if they don't like it, they can come back to me and say, that was rubbish, I can play it much better. And I say, go, do it.
Thank you for the video you contributed to our Friends video project.
That's a pleasure.
It was a few weeks ago now. That you can also hear Phillip Sear on piano music she wrote. So yeah, I just really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and share a little bit about what you've been doing. So lovely to meet you, and
likewise.
So we'll hopefully cross paths at some point somehow.
Yeah.
And to everyone who joined us in real time now and in the future on YouTube. And I think you'll find it's quite easy to find Phillip and his videos, and then from there you can find him. Track him down.
Yeah. Always happy to help. Right.
And Eric says, thank you so much for all that you're, oh my God, Sandra, can you read? So Erica says, thank you so much for all that you've done and are doing, Phillip.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So until next time, again, thank you. And we'll sign off now. And
right.
Yeah, we'll see everybody on another chat next week.
Yes, I'll sign off then now.
Okie doke.
Bye.
All the best.